In the Middle East and those crucial talks aimed at ending the war in Gaza. It's being reported that indirect talks between Israeli and Hamas negotiators have begun in Egypt. The negotiations are aimed at trying to reach agreement on the US peace plan. President Trump has urged everyone involved to move fast. Well, the first phase of the plan involves the release of all remaining Israeli hostages and the release of hundreds of Palestinian detainees. So let's head to Tel Aviv and our chief international correspondent, Lise Doucet, who's there for us. Lise, over to you.
Yes, you join us here in what is now known as Hostages Square in the heart of Tel Aviv. It's very quiet, as you can see behind me. Almost no one in the square tonight. Today is the beginning of the Holy Jewish Festival of Sukkot, so Israelis are not gathering here today on the eve of the October the 7th, second-year mark of the grievous Gaza war. But tomorrow this square will be filled with families of the hostages, those who've come home, and those who are still being held in the Gaza Strip. There's a big clock behind me in bright red letters, which marks how long it has been since the hostages were taken. 730 days, 13 hours, 30 minutes, 32 seconds. The families of the hostages, the vast majority of Israelis and many beyond, are daring to hope that this could be the week when the last of the hostages, living or dead, will come home. And many the world over, and most of all in the Gaza Strip, are also hoping that the suffering of Palestinians will finally ease, that the talks which have just got underway, the indirect talks between Israel and Hamas, will succeed, at least in the first phase. Let's bring in my colleague Barbara Plett-Usher in Jerusalem to get a bit of an assessment about just how likely is the possibility that the hostages will be exchanged for prisoners and a ceasefire will come into force this week. How is it looking, Barbara?
Well, it's certainly possible, Lise. You have these talks started now in Sharm El-Sheikh in the resort of the Sinai. Indirect talks, as you said, Arab mediators shuttling back and forth. The Hamas delegation being led by Khalil al-Hayya, who the Israelis tried to kill last month. You remember he survived that Israeli airstrike on Qatar, and yet now here they are. So they have, both sides have expressed willingness or shown willingness to try to reach some kind of agreement on this first phase of Mr. Trump's plan, and they are basically looking at the technical details of how to do this hostage for prisoner exchange. So they're trying to work out the conditions on the ground as to where and how the hostages would be released. The Red Cross is standing by. Conditions for a ceasefire that would make this possible. Arrangements for how to retrieve the bodies of the deceased, because 28 of the hostages are thought to be dead, but it will take some time to find them because they are buried somewhere in the rubble of Gaza, and so arrangements need to be made for that. Then looking at the prisoner list, that will be quite tricky, Lise, because 250 of them are meant to be high-level or life sentence prisoners, and the Israelis see them as a severe security threat, whereas Hamas will really push for them because they'll be seen as the Palestinian resistance. So that will be a tricky one. But as I said, there is a willingness, I think, to achieve something here, and you have President Trump really demanding that be done, saying that this should be done by the end of the week. So that's an impetus behind them. When they get to the second phase, which has to do with very complex issues about the future of Gaza, that might be something else. But this does look doable at this point, although it will not necessarily be easy negotiations.
Barbara Plett-Usher, I know that you and many of our colleagues on our team will be keeping a close eye on these talks as they get underway. Thank you for joining us from Jerusalem. Well, as Barbara mentioned, what is new this time, and it's a significant element in the possible success of these indirect talks, is that President Donald Trump is now focusing on them, on ending the war, on bringing the hostages home in a way not been seen before, at least not since the ceasefire talks which succeeded earlier this year, which resulted in a ceasefire on January the 19th and some of the hostages being brought home. Prime Minister Netanyahu of Israel and Hamas are both under unprecedented pressure from President Trump to get the deal done now.